Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today is November 5th, 2025. There's a lot going on. I'm going to try to sort of abbreviate this call because I think I'd be on here for a couple of hours if I tried to relate to you all of the information that we're getting from the Middle East, from Europe, the United States, the Trump administration, currency speculators. I try to distill this as best we can, and I'll give that my best shot. The one piece of good news, or what in my opinion I think is good news, is all of the information we've gleaned from this tells me that Prime Minister Soudani, who has been holding the date for the new exchange rate close to the vest, seems to me that January of 2026 is the date that we've all been waiting for. We've invested, some of us for months, some of us for years, some of us for decades, waiting for this event. We knew, or at least I believe and always have believed, that this was going to happen. Of course, the problem was, when was it going to happen? Those of us that have been involved in this speculative investment have seen 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Situation in Iraq, it's tribal, it's backward, it's convoluted. There are a lot of uninvited participants, and I'll get into that a little bit in the call. But I think that the Trump administration is the final piece of the puzzle. We finally have an administration in the United States that simply will not take no for an answer. They will not take tomorrow for an answer. They want it done, and they want it now. And I just want to review briefly what Trump has done to get us to this position. Well, he's neutralized Iran very dramatically. We basically haven't heard a peep out of Iran since Trump took out their nuclear program. And remember, prior to that, he sanctioned them. He took out Soleimani, that was misbehaving in Iraq. And he finally took out their nuclear program. The nuclear program was Iran's threat. The use of that program, if they were not permitted to continue to interfere in the affairs in Iraq and, frankly, in all of the Middle East. And Trump just took that away from them, so they've got basically nothing. Then we have the U.S. Treasury and Envoy Savaya, who are working diligently to assist the CBI of Iraq to complete their monetary reform. And Trump's also orchestrated a deal to extract and refine oil in exchange for a profit-sharing arrangement. Now, I know that there are segments within Iraq that are very upset about this quote-unquote profit-sharing arrangement. And the only thing that comes to my mind is the saying, do ye no favors, suffer ye no ingratitude. The only reason any of this is happening is because the United States of America took out the regime of Saddam Hussein, who was going to keep the nation state of Iraq basically in complete and total turmoil for their own benefit. And through a series of very radical military, economic, political, geopolitical, and diplomatic moves, has assisted Iraq to find itself in a position now where it's going to be a thriving, rich, sovereign nation. Now, ultimately, what has to happen, of course, is the release of complete passage of the 2026 budget and release of Article 12-2C, which has in it embedded the new exchange rate. And I think we're very close to all of that happening, which is why I feel that January of 2026 is a very rational, reasonable expectation for the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. Now, there are other deals that have been consummated as well. As I said, we had the neutralization of Iran. We have a very critical water deal being negotiated with Iraq and Turkey. We also have the agreement for the restitution to Kuwait for the invasion of that nation during the Saddam Hussein administration. So we have Iran, Turkey, and Kuwait, close neighbors to Iraq, all working collaboratively and cooperatively together to assist, at least indirectly, with the ultimate goal, which is the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. Then there are also the trade deals that are going on. A trade deal with Kuwait, the building of a massive port, and also trade deals with the EU. And lastly, of course, the Iraqi dinar entering a number of currency baskets. Now, this simply cannot happen at 1310. None of this makes any sense. None of this will come to fruition. None of this will consummate anything that is being attempted at 1310. What has to happen is the Iraqi dinar has to reinstitute, it has to go onto the Forex, and then it has to find its Basel IV compliant rate. That's what we are all waiting for. Ultimately, for Iraq to hit its Basel IV compliant rate. That's why an investment in 1 million dinar for approximately $1,000 will literally result through the exchange of that currency at a Basel IV compliant rate of a multi-million-dollar windfall profit. Something that we've been told in the past can't happen. I've discussed many times in the past the system of Basel compliance, the history of Iraq. It's the fact that Iraq, arguably per square mile, could be the richest country in the world, which props up substantially and dramatically its Basel IV compliant rate. All of these things are coming together. And those of us that have invested in the Iraqi dinar, as frustrating as it's been, have patiently waited. I think this long ride is just about over. We also have activities with the IMF and the U.S. envoy Savaya in Iraq to assist with their entry into the World Trade Organization. Again, makes absolutely no sense at a program rate. So everything that's happening, whether it's happening domestically in Iraq, whether it's happening in the Middle Eastern region and the neighbors of Iraq, whether it's happening with Western nations that have entered into trade contracts with Iraq, or the United States of America, that is primarily the nation that's leading this recovery and primarily the nation that spent money, time, and precious treasure liberating Iraq, is going to reap a substantial profit. But even beyond that, American citizens who are afforded the opportunity to invest in the future of Iraq through the purchase of the Iraqi dinar are going to be able to go to the bank, exchange that currency for a substantial windfall profit. Now, there are other things going on in Iraq as well. The building of the Afah port, which is a massive reconstruction effort necessary in order to deliver oil internationally, which of course affects the value of their currency. But in the country, we see the, well, wait a minute. The one other thing I should have mentioned, I kind of forgot, is that Iraq recently received the international certificate, the ISO 301 cert, meaning that the CBI of Iraq has met all international banking standards and practices. And that's critical because that's what's necessary in order for the Iraqi dinar to hit the 4X. And what we've seen in Iraq as we speak is the strategic closure of certain banks. In my opinion, the only reason for the closure of these banks is in preparation for the release of the new exchange rate. So no matter what angle you look at this from, whether you look internally at the country, specifically at their banking system, whether you look at the construction in the country, whether you look at the agreements with the neighboring countries, whether you look at their becoming members of critical international groups, everything is falling into place. It's as though you're looking at something with blurred vision and your vision clears up and now your vision's crystal clear. And the only thing left to happen at this point for the citizens of Iraq and for those that have invested in Iraq, and incidentally, it's not just the American citizens, it's citizenry around the world, predominantly in the West, but it's also central banks, international hedge funds, NGOs, whale investors, all of these individuals are involved. But we were afforded an opportunity to invest as well, and so we're coming along for the ride. And it seems to me that no longer is Iraq under any sanctions or restrictions. So for the first time since Iraq went into a program rate, in my opinion, everything that's necessary for the reinstitution and global revaluation of the Iraqi dinar is in place. This is why, in my opinion, January seems like the month that this is all going to occur. Now, I'll get calls from naysayers that will remind me over the last 20 years how many times they pulled the rug out from under us. They were going to get a certain thing done and they didn't get it done. They gave us some sort of a, although they don't like to give drop-dead dates, but when they, to the extent that they do give dates, they always are postponed for some reason. So I do understand that, and I can also understand why many people feel when I'm standing in line at the bank to exchange my currency, this thing is over. But I'm hard-pressed at this point to find any obstacle to the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar. And I'll end the way I began. The number one reason I think this is going to happen is because of President Donald J. Trump. He gets things done. I know he's abrasive. I know that individuals don't like him personally. But of all of the criticisms of this man, what you don't hear his critics say, he's not getting things done. They always dwell on personal and personality issues, never on his actual accomplishments. I don't really understand at this point why this continues, other than something that I alluded to way back when I first started doing these calls. There is a contingent in Washington, D.C. that does not want to see 10 or 15, perhaps even 20 million Americans become overnight millionaires, for the very simple reason that they're not going to vote for bigger government, they're not going to vote for more regulation, they're not going to vote for higher taxes. So there is an internal political calculus involved here, but it has nothing to do with the welfare of the American people. It has to do with the growth of the central government. And I think in the end, they're not going to be able to stop what's happening because it's bigger than any one country, even the United States. This is a global reckoning. It has to do not just with Basel compliance, but it has to do with countries like Iraq, like Vietnam, like countries in South America, countries that have been under the boot of a tyrannical government that's not interested in the welfare of their respective citizens, but interested in control and containing the wealth to their elite few. I think those days are over, and again, I think we're going to be in the banks very, very shortly. Now, Of course, what Trusts Unlimited does is we offer to those that have currencies and have been kind enough to listen to our calls to establish our trust package. Now, there's a fundamental reason why we've been marketing this trust pre-RV, because theoretically, after the revaluation, you can afford anything. The cost of our trust is chump change. But it's a little bit of a hassle for individuals pre-RV, and I understand that. But let me explain to you very, very simply the importance of this trust package. Let's say you're an average middle-class, hard-working family, but you managed over the course of the last 10 years or so to accumulate 5 or 10 or even 15 million or more dinar. Well, you're off the grid. Those currencies are almost worthless. So no one really knows that you possess those currencies. They're not generating any income. They're not generating dividends. There's no cap gain. There's nothing going. They're just sitting there dormant. But you assign those currencies to our trust. So when you go to the bank to exchange those currencies, they're not being exchanged in your name utilizing your Social Security number. They're being exchanged into a very sophisticated trust package. And that package provides not only benefits that you could not ever establish for yourself if you waited till after the revaluation to establish the trust. You're establishing for yourself benefits that do not exist in any other entity. LLCs can't do it. Sub-S corporations can't do it. Family limited partnerships can't do it. State trusts can't do it either. And very briefly, these are the benefits that are going to be provided by the trust. First, privacy and anonymity. By establishing this trust pre-RV, in addition to protecting your privacy and your anonymity, you're going to make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for anyone to successfully sue you, and frivolous lawsuits cannot possibly succeed. This trust will allow you to avoid personal IRS scrutiny, because by establishing this trust pre-RV, you will significantly avoid the possibility of an IRS audit. And any such audit of your trust would be confined to the revaluation itself. In other words, they simply want to know where the money came from. And the answer is, I bought currencies, I went to an American bank, I exchanged those currencies for the USD, and I placed them in my trust package. So the fact that the IRS knows that the trust exists and how that money got into the trust has nothing to do with the fact that your privacy and your anonymity is preserved. Third benefit, you can avoid gift taxes with pre-RV gifting. By gifting pre-RV currencies to friends and family through your trust, you will avoid any federal gift tax, and you will have control of the post-RV proceeds. Yes, you can give currencies outside of a trust, and you can avoid the federal gift tax, but by gifting currencies into the trust, again, you can control the post-RV proceeds. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that are mature, independent individuals, responsible people, of course you gift them the currencies outright and you let them manage them for themselves. But there are many individuals who've contacted us and said, look, I'd like to give to certain individuals, but for any number of reasons, I just don't think they'll be able to manage the post-RV proceeds. And there's nothing more pathetic than someone who is a multimillionaire one day and because of a series of very bad decisions is flat broke the next day. Well, that won't happen in a situation where you're gifting to these individuals through our gift subtrust, because again, you're in control of the post-RV proceeds. Another benefit of the trust package is you've acquired this wealth, but you also want it to go generationally to your family when you pass away. Well, because the money's in this trust, you're going to avoid probate, and you're going to avoid the federal estate tax. Your trust will allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate making any inheritance immediate and privately available to your heirs. It will also allow you to avoid the federal estate tax. This is the tax that's assessed to transfer assets from your estate to your heirs. The federal estate tax today can be as high as 55% of your estate, in excess of $12.2 million. Now, why is there no federal estate tax when the assets are in trust? Very simply, because they're not transferred. The beneficiary changes, but the assets are still owned by the trust. Therefore, there's no probate and there's no federal estate tax. So for an individual to spend $2,500 to establish a trust, which will allow them to avoid probate and the federal estate tax, is minuscule. It's not even debatable. The amount of money people spend to estate planning attorneys to try to get anywhere near what this trust will do is absurd. And you've accomplished all of that in addition to all of the lifetime benefits by establishing a trust. And the last issue is the preemptive asset protection. By placing your pre-RV currencies in trust, only the value of those currencies at the time of the transfer would ever be subject to a civil suit. In other words, you have 10 million dinar that you purchased for $10,000. You transfer the currencies to the trust. Even if a lawsuit were to be successful, the only thing they could glean from such a suit would be the value of the currencies at the time of the transfer, not the post-RV value in trust. So again, you've done everything you can do to protect this wealth from individuals seeking to invade your privacy, from individuals seeking money from frivolous lawsuits, from individuals trying to take this money from your heirs when you pass away. All of that is gone because of the establishment of this trust. And I will tell you this, all of the wealthy individuals, particularly the wealthy families of the United States, most of whom made their money during the oil boom, had a saying. They established trusts. They said the secret to protecting wealth generationally is you own nothing, but you control everything. And that's exactly what happens with this trust. On paper, you own nothing, but in reality, you control everything. But you have one added advantage, and it's that you know that you are about to receive a substantial windfall wealth profit from this reinstitution. And so you're able to go off the grid, protect this wealth, and at the same time own it. And it can't be done any other way than through such a trust package. Now I'm going to go to the Q&A in just a moment, but before I do, I just want to give you our contact information. If the things we've discussed are of interest to you, I strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. I'm going to go to the Q&A here, and then before I start taking potential questions, I will give you that information. So let me just go to our Q&A. And while I'm waiting for any questions, let me give you our contact information. Again, I strongly suggest you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. It does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed with the establishment of your asset protection trust package, but you're under no obligation to do so. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. If you decide to proceed, everything's right there in the package for you. I will state that time is really short. So this is a decision you're going to need to make relatively quickly. That's bad news for individuals that for some reason take a long time to make decisions, but it's very good news for those of us that have currencies, because it looks like this, as I said, this long ride is just about over. Now you can contact us by email or phone. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC@gmail.com. That's Trusts with an S, Unlimited LLC at gmail.com. And our phone service is 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. Contact us by email or phone. We'll get our trust package out to you as soon as possible. Everything's right there. If you wish to proceed, you can certainly contact us. If you have any questions, we'll help you in every way. This is taking a little longer than we're accustomed to simply because we've been inundated with trust requests, and that brings me to another issue. I apologize to those of you that I've not gotten back to as quickly as I would like to, but we've just been inundated with not only requests for our trust package, but questions from many of our existing clients because they're all aware of how close this thing is and they want to just dot some I's and cross some T's. I understand that completely, and as frustrating as it can be, I will just sit here on the phone and with the email and contact everyone. I'm just going right down the line in the order in which I received phone calls and emails, and I will get back to you however long that takes. So let's go to our Q&A here. Our first caller is area code 808. That's 808. Go ahead.
Hi there. We got cut off last week. It's Daisy from Hawaii.
Daisy, of course. Where's that laugh, Daisy?
Anyway, thank you for taking this call. I didn't expect to be number one, but that's fine. I have one quick question, and it has to do with. I know there's a paper in my folder that I have assigned or something to do with a bank. Should I add another bank to that? Or is it okay to just show up at a bank eventually and ask them?
Yeah, you don't. It doesn't matter what it says there. You can go to one bank. You can go to 5 banks. There are people that have said to me that they're not going to exchange all their currency at one bank. They're going to go to, say, Bank 1, exchange some currency, go to Bank 2. If they get a better deal at Bank 2, they'll exchange the rest of their currency there. If they don't get a good deal there, they might go to Bank 3, and if they don't, they'll go back to Bank 1. So individuals I wouldn't play be too cute. This is a good opportunity for me to mention, too, that depending upon the timing of the reinstitution, we have a tax issue. If we have, for example, a revaluation, in the first month of a quarter, we know we have 90 days before we have to pay taxes. But if we have a revaluation at the end of a quarter, we may only have 15 to 30 days to pay taxes. So you have to go to the bank. You have to do your exchange. You have to make sure that the bank is contractually obligated to have the sufficient liquidity to pay the tax. So, and of course, we will get into all that in detail depending upon the timing. But you're not locked into any one bank. So you can go to one bank. You can go to 5 banks if you want.
Okay. Hopefully, because of where we are, I'm thinking any stupid bank, would gladly take our money. But I'm thinking if we have to travel to the States to get it done, and that's going to be a little problem for us.
Well, if you're able to travel outside of your state in a car, I wouldn't have a problem with that. If you're traveling outside of your state and it requires you get on an airplane, I'm probably a little bit too careful. But I don't know. I'd hate to have to get on an airplane. This is a terrible thing for me to say.
Yeah, that's why
you just saw that plane crash this morning. That horrible plane crash. So,
oh no.
I mean, I'm just saying there are
that's what I'm worried about.
And you should be, and you should be, unless the difference between a bank in say Hawaii and a bank on the mainland is substantially different. I would deal with the banks in where you are in Hawaii.
Oh yeah, if I could do it here, I certainly would do it here. And like I said, if I get $3, on the dollar, I'd be totally thrilled with that.
Yeah, and that brings me to another point. More money is lost than made in the stock market. If you have currencies, if you have a 5 million dinar that you paid $5,000 for, and you can exchange it for millions, it's an emotional issue, and it's harder than as simple as I make it sound. But do your exchange, be thankful, don't look back. People get into trouble when they say, well, I can get, instead of getting 46 million, I can get 47.5 million if I go over here, and then it blows up. Go to the bank, negotiate the exchange in good faith, pay your taxes, invest wisely.
I hope to. That's my plan. Like I said, we've waited so long, and just having it go through. Like I said, if it's $3, whatever it is, that's fine with me. It's more money than I've ever had.
And that's going to be the case for more individuals, but it's kind of it really is an emotional issue for people, and you really have to divorce emotion from your business decisions. The place for emotion is when you're providing for philanthropic groups or when you're providing for your family. That's a little different. But when it comes to investing, it's like a surgeon. You can't get emotionally involved with a patient. You have to perform the surgery, to the best of your ability. And that's kind of what we go to the bank, we negotiate our exchange, the USD goes into the trust bank account, then we sit back with our family, we look at our age, our objectives, our family, all of that stuff, and we work backwards from that to invest some money. But unfortunately, it's like the gambler's curse. You have a good day at the the table, so you put it all and then you lose it all. So you won 9 out of 10 hands, but you're still broke. So
right.
Money's a drug, and you just have to be careful.
Yes, you have to keep your mind on the goal of what you're there for. The other thing is, I would say, you brought up age. At our age, I know how much you're sitting there and working on the phones. Remember to get up at least every 20 minutes, take a walk around the desk so you don't get rigor setting in.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what happened to me. The reason I got involved in this and the reason I was bullish about it is because as a younger man with a wife and small children, I made a little bit of money on the Kuwaiti dinar. The reason I made that money is because I had some wealthy clients that were also currency speculators, and so they came to me and said, hey, Jim, I see their portfolios, and I started asking them questions about this stuff, and they convinced me to, and I didn't have that much, but they convinced me to invest in the Kuwaiti dinar. Well, I ended up, I think it was less than 6 months. I can't remember how much it was. It was the best day I'd ever had at the office. Nothing came even close second to it. So, so I understood what the potential here now. But now I'm a much older man. So it's not a matter of, I'm going to have all this money, and you look at all these cool things I'm going to do. It's going to be like, when this happens, I'm going to have all this money, and look at all the cool things my kids can do.
Right. And I got a whole bunch of those.
Yeah. Well, and I'm gonna enjoy doing for them more than I ever
for yourself
would have enjoyed doing it for myself.
Right.
And
right.
As a young man, you wouldn't think. Yeah, but that's the wisdom of age. But anyway, the timing of the reinstitution is going to affect a lot of the initial decisions about the exchange and investments and all of that. And that's a day as difficult as it might be, it's a day I'm looking forward to.
Me too.
All right.
And I thank you for all the years that on this call.
I thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks so
you
much.
Have a great rest of your day.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye now. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Our next caller is, listen, she's laughing on the way off the line. Our next caller is area code 615. That's 615. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. This is Bill in Tennessee. How are you today?
Hey, Bill. Okay. How are you doing, Bill?
Pretty good. For the lady that was just on the call, many years ago, I used to be a federal bank examiner, and I examined all the banks in Hawaii. She won't have any problem. Just pick the biggest one. Just pick the biggest one with a good correspondent relationship with the stateside banks.
Makes sense to me.
My question is, pardon?
I said that makes sense to me.
Yeah. I just wondered, are you hearing anything about the dong at all?
Yes, I've discussed the dong. The situation with the dong is that, remember, the dong is as the currency of Vietnam. Vietnam being sort of in a closed system with China, but China's their economic model, the socialist model, the Mamdani model, this mayor of New York, that model does not work long term. And what Vietnam is doing is it's putting its feelers out and doing trade deals outside of the China umbrella. The Vietnamese dong is another one that most of our clients, I certainly do. If you only had two currencies, it would be the Iraqi dinar and the Vietnamese dong. I've gotten into detail about the situation in Vietnam and why Vietnam is pretty much a good play and why Vietnam has issues with natural resources, certainly not like Iraq, but they're a player. And if I had to hazard a guess, the next currency to go would be the Vietnamese dong. So, whatever I would say about the dinar, I'd say the same thing about the dong. You purchased it for, as I recall, I paid less for the dong than I paid for the dinar. I don't expect to get the same return in terms of gross dollars, but I might get the same return on a percentage basis. So we'll see. But the dong looks very, very promising. The world is changing. Moving away from fiat currencies to Basel-compliant currencies. And very simply, what that means is in a fiat system, the value of a currency in a given country is based on the ability of that country basically to make good on its promises, as opposed to a system where the value of a currency is not based on the full faith and credit of a given country, but based on the known natural resources in that country and their ability to bring those resources to market. In other words, it's a backed currency. And Vietnam has a lot of natural resources and oil offshore. So it's another nation that is going to be in a very, very good position because of financial position that's been established. Now, that type of a system is bad for a country like China that is going to have to allow countries that have their own natural wealth to proceed with, building their own nation and not sort of an adjunct to the mother nation, China. So China, despite the fact that China's been very aggressive, been involved in, probably has trade deals with 90% or more countries around the world, but internally, to use their term, it's kind of a paper tiger, in my opinion. It doesn't mean they don't have a strong military. They're not a superpower to be dealt with. But internally, the United States, it just blows them away. I mean, they're not putting tariffs on us. We're putting tariffs on them, So, we're the consumer nation. We're a wealthy consumer nation. We're not dependent. We are. Well, of course, we're a very wealthy consumer nation. We're not dependent on any other nation. China needs a customer. We don't need China. China needs us. I mean, it's if you boil it down to that, that's why we're the stronger nation.
Yeah.
And with these currencies reinstituting and revaluing, we're going to be even stronger nation. So, do you think the average Chinese peasant has 10 million dinar or dong? No,
don't think so.
But we do. Yeah, but many, I think the estimate now is as high as 20 million Americans have dinar and or Vietnamese dong. Well, that's 20 million people that are going to be, multimillionaires. And that's purchasing power, isn't it?
Certainly is.
Yeah.
You could probably afford to buy an Aston Martin.
You remember, that's my car. every time I say that, my wife looks at me and says, "Really? That's what you want? Yeah, that's going to make it for you, an Aston Martin." And I say, "Yep."
Yeah. Normally, I recommend listening to wives. But when it comes to cars, make your own decisions. You're the one that's driving it.
Yeah.
There seems to be a wide window of where people expect this to come out at. That ranges anywhere from a 1-to-1 to who the hell knows. And I know that the Kuwaiti has the highest value to the U.S. dollar at about 380, I think it is, somewhere in that range. And it has substantially less natural resources than what Kuwait or Iraq does. What is your opinion or your expert friend's opinion as to where they think this could come out at and where they think it could rise to and then settle back down like the Kuwaiti?
That's the way to ask the question. What could it rise to and what could it settle at? Okay, 1-to-1 with the U.S. dollar is merely a point of beginning. You got to start somewhere. That's when the race starts, right there, 1-to-1. Now, the dinar went into a program rate at 322. Since then, the nation-state of Iraq has substantially rebuilt itself, resolved all of its indebtedness to its neighboring nations. We've got 25, 30 years of inflation to add to that. So I don't think 322 is where it's going to settle. It's certainly going to rise higher than that. By the way, the Kuwaiti dinar, I think it went up over $7 before it dropped back down. I think it was 326. So the rate that it ultimately settled at was only half of what it had reached at one point in time. The currency speculators that I've been talking to said they expect it to settle closer to $5, which puts it the strongest currency against the U.S. dollar in the world. They're talking about $4.85. I would not be shocked. As a matter of fact, Shabibi said that he thought the dinar, because of velocity, would reach double digit before it settled back down at a rate. He was talking, I can't remember what, but it was in the teens, and before it dropped back down. And I think he was, I wish I'd looked that up to remember it, somewhere between $7 and $9. I don't expect that, but if the dinar were to settle north of $5, I would not be shocked. I expect it to settle north of $4. That's what I expect. So, worst case scenario then, let's just say the worst case scenario is it goes back to 322. A $1,000 investment into 1 million dinar should still gross you $3.25 million. That sounds impossible mathematically, but if you go back and look at the entire history of everything that's happened, it makes pretty good sense.
Well, I'm not very good with numbers, but that sounds like a hell of a good deal.
Well, it's never happened before. It's never going to happen again because we have a country that was we have arguably the richest country in the world per square mile that was devastated by the Saddam administration, whose currency went into a program rate. And during that period of time, the global valuation of currencies transitioned from fiat-based to Basel-compliant currencies. So you purchase the dinar at a program rate, and you will exchange the dinar at a Basel IV compliant rate. And that's how you get from 0 to 60. And it's just the timing of it. We just, none of us knew all of this was going to happen. We just purchased a currency, and then all of these other issues, which we had nothing to do with, which we had no control of, have affected the dinar and all currencies in such a way that if we were in possession of this, particularly if they're in a program rate, it's a windfall profit. Even at $1, you get $1 million for a $1,000 investment. I mean, that's crazy. But the numbers are the numbers, you know?
Yep. I like those numbers.
I do too. And I hope this is just about over, because now I'm running out of time physiologically. So, I need this to happen.
I think there's less sand in the top of either of our hourglasses.
Yeah. But
Again,
but with time you have family, friends, and you have things you want to do, and now you can do them all.
Yep.
Yeah. You take care of life. I agree.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Well, someone came back here. We have area code 808, Hawaii. Are you there, 808?
That's it.
Any more questions for me? You have any more questions for me?
I didn't touch anything.
Well, you just didn't hang up, so you're still in the queue.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes people hang up after they get their question answered. You didn't, but I just wanted to check in to make sure. Okay?
Yeah, no, thanks to the guy who came on after me and said, that I'll be okay here. That makes me happy, because I know of only 2 of our banks here that are, like you said, the bigger ones. The rest of them are, just little guys. So I'm hoping
put it to you this way.
I'll be fine.
When these currencies revalue, banks are going to want you to come to their bank to do the exchange. So if there's any way the bank can facilitate it, even if they have to underwrite through another bank, they're going to do it. I don't think you're going to have a problem exchanging the currency at all. Okay?
Well, and like this man recently said, even at $1, I will be thrilled.
Agreed. Yeah. Even at 10
I'm not
cents,
greedy,
Well, actually, I am, but I got a big family.
Like you, I think mine is bigger than yours. I don't know, but I've got 5 generations now.
Well, that's more people to bless.
Yes, I am blessed. Thank you so much, Jim.
Okay, you take care, Jim.
Anyway,
bye-bye now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, we got another caller snuck in here. This is area code 760. That's 760. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim, this is Sherman from California.
Yes, sir.
I think how you been? I think I lost. I can tell. I listen to you constantly. I lost my somehow my attachment for my currency assignment letter. Would you be able to check and see if you could you could send me another attachment so
yes.
I can print it out?
You want the currency assignment form?
Yes.
All right. As soon as we get off this call, I'll track down your email and I'll send you the currency assignment form. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate it. That's all I need.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're the last call. It's on its way. All right?
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye now. Well, Sherman was our last caller. Again, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. And again, if the things we've discussed are of interest to you, I strongly suggest you get our initial no-obligation package. It does have everything you need if you wish to proceed with the establishment of a trust, but it also has a lot of valuable information that you're going to need both pre- and post-RV. You can contact us by email or phone. Our email address is trusts with an S, Unlimited LLC at gmail.com. And our phone service is 307-274-4122. Contact us by email or phone. I'll get our package out to you just as quickly as I can. Our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Have a great week, and God bless.